Um, so we're moving on. Welcome to part two in our exploration of Chinese art. The elite men and women of the Han Dynasty, and this is China's second imperial dynasty that reigned from 206 BCE to 220 CE, enjoyed an opulent lifestyle that also could stretch into the afterlife. Today, the well-furnished tombs of the elite gave us a glimpse of the luxurious goods they treasured and enjoyed. For instance, a wealthy official could afford beautiful silk robes in contrast to the homespun or paper garments of a laborer or peasant. Their tombs also informed us about their cosmological beliefs. So what you're looking at is the funeral banner of Lady Di Zinshu, 2nd century BCE. And this was found in a tomb with over 100 objects in 1972. So what you're looking at here are nesting coffins of Lady Da. Um, so here we see three elite tombs, again discovered in 1972 at the Ma Wang Hunan province, eastern China. I know I said that wrong. And it ranks among the greatest archaeological discoveries in China during the 20th century. They are the tombs of a high-ranking Han official, civil servant, the Marquis of Da, Lady Da, and his wife and their son. The Marquis died in 186 BCE, and his wife and son both died by 163 BCE. The Marquis's tomb was not in good condition when it was discovered. However, the objects in the son and wife's tomb were of extraordinary quality and very well preserved. From these objects, we can see that Lady Da and her son were to spend the afterlife in sumptuous comfort. And so these are nesting coffins, and these are made of wood and have a lacquer exterior, and again, quite ornate. Lady Da's tomb, archaeologists found a painted silk banner over 6 feet long in excellent condition. I'm sorry, I referred to it as a robe earlier. My apologies. It kind of looks like a kimono. The T-shaped banner was on top of the innermost of the four nesting coffins. Although scholars still debate the function of these banners, we know they had some connection with the afterlife. They may be name banners used to identify the dead during the mourning ceremonies, or they may have been burial shrouds intended to aid the soul in its passage to the afterlife. Dawes banner is important for two primary reasons. It is an early example of pictorial, representing naturalistic scenes and not just abstract shapes. So this idea of pictorial art in China. Second, the banner features the earliest known portrait in Chinese painting. We can divide Lady Da's banner into four horizontal registers, and you can see the diagram here. The top register refers to the heavenly realm. Below that, Lady Da and her attendants. Below that, the body of Lady Da with mourners, and then at the very bottom, representation of the underworld. So we'll take some look at some details of the banner. In the lower central register, we see Lady Da in an embroidered silk robe leaning on a staff. This remarkable portrait of Lady Da is the earliest example of a painted portrait of a specific individual in China. She stands on a platform along with her servants, 2 in front and 3 behind. Now we're looking at another detailed. Here we see long, sinuous dragons that frame the scene on either side of the portrait, and their white and pink bodies loop through what's called a bee, and it's spelled B-I, and this is a disc with a hole through, thought to represent the sky underneath Lady Da. We understand that this is not a portrait of Lady Da in her former life, but an image of her in the afterlife, enjoying the immortal comforts of her tomb as she ascends towards the heavens. In the register below the scene of Lady Da, we see sacrificial funerary rituals taking place in a mourning hall. Tripod containers and vase-shaped vessels for offering food and wine stand in the foreground. In the middle ground, seated mourners line up in two rows. Look for the mound in the center between the two rows of mourners. If you look closely, you can see the pattern of the silk that matched the robe Lady Da wears in the scene above. Her corpse is wrapped in her finest robe. More vessels appear on a shelf in the background. In this morning scene, we can also appreciate the importance of Lady Da's banner for understanding how artists began to represent depth and space in early Chinese painting. They made efforts to indicate depth through the use of overlapping bodies of the mourners. They also made objects in the foreground larger and objects in the background smaller to create the illusion of space in the mourning hall. So here's a detail of the heavenly realm of the banner. Lady Da's banner gives us some insight into cosmological beliefs and funerary practices of the Han Dynasty, China. Above and below the scene of Lady Da and the mourning hall, we see images of heaven and the underworld. Toward the top, near the cross of the T, two men face each other and guard the gate to the heavenly realm. Directly above the two men, at the very top of the banner, we see a deity with a human head and a dragon body. On the left, a toad standing on a crescent moon flanks the dragon human deity. On the right, we see what may be a three-legged crow within a pink sun. The moon and the sun are emblematic of a supernatural realm above the human world. Dragons and other immortal beings populate the sky. In the lower register, beneath the mourning hall, we see the underworld populated by two giant black fish, a red snake, and a pair of blue goats, and an unidentified earthly deity. The deity appears to hold up the floor of the mourning hall, while the two fish cross to form a circle beneath him. The beings in the underworld symbolize water and earth, and they indicate an underground domain below the human world. Four compartments surround Lady Da's central tomb, and they offer some sense of the life she was expected to lead in the afterlife. The top compartment represented a room where Lady Da was supposed to sit while having her meal. In this compartment, researchers found cushions, an armrest, and her walking stick. The compartment also contained a meal laid out for her to eat in the afterlife. Lady Da was 50 years old when she died, but her lavish tomb, marked by her funerary banner, ensures that she would enjoy the comforts of her earthly life for an eternity. So we're going to switch back and look at some sculpture again. Worship and power struggles, enlightenment and suicide. The 2,300 caves and niches filled with Buddhist art in Longmen in our art at Longmen in China has witnessed it all. And so this is what you're looking at, these little caves. The steep limestone cliffs extend for almost a mile and contain approximately 110,000 Buddhist stone statues, 60 stupas, hemispherical structures containing Buddhist relics, and 2,800 inscriptions carved on steles. And again, a stele is a vertical stone marker. So you know a lot about Buddhism, so I'm not going to go into great detail about the belief system. Buddhism was born in India, was transmitted to China intermittently and haphazardly, starting as early as the 1st century CE. Buddhism brought to China new images, texts, ideas about life and death, and new opportunities to assess authority. The Longmen Cave temple complex, located on both sides of the Yi River, south of the ancient capital of Luoyang, is an excellent source for understanding how rulers wielded this foreign religion to affirm assimilation and superiority. Let's The carvings at the Longmen site date between the end of the 5th century and the middle of the 8th century. The periods of the Northern Way, this occurred between 486 and 534 CE, and through the early Tang dynasties. And the Tang occurred from 618 to 907 CE. The northern waymost of the carvings at the Longmen site date between the end of the 5th century and the middle of the 8th century. The periods of the northern way, 486 through 534 CE. Through early Tang dynasties, 618 and 907 CE. You don't have to know all these dates, but I'm just giving them to you. The northern Wei was the most enduring and powerful of the northern Chinese dynasties that ruled before the reunification of China under the Su Tang dynasties, the Su and Tang dynasties. The Wei, I don't know if it's Wei or Wei dynasty, was founded by Tuoba tribesmen, nomads from the front, and these were nomads from the frontiers of northern China, who were considered to be barbaric foreigners by the Han Chinese. Northern Wei Emperor Yao Wen decided to move the capital south to Luoyang in 494 CE, a region considered the cradle of Chinese civilization. And so we're looking at that on the map. Many of the Tuba elite opposed the move and disapproved of Yao Wen's eager adoption of Chinese culture. Even his own son disapproved and was forced to end his own life. At first, Emperor Yao Wen and rich citizens focused on building the city's administrative and court quarters. Only later did they shift their energies and wealth into the construction of monasteries and temples. With all the effort expended on the city, they could barely manage to complete one cave temple at Longmen, and this was the central Binyang cave. Um, the central Binyang Cave was one of the 3 caves started in 508 CE. It was commissioned by Emperor Wan Wu in memory of his father. The other 2 caves, known as Northern and Southern Binyang, were never completed. Imagine being surrounded by a myriad of cave carvings painted in brilliant blue, red, ochre, and gold. So again, like other cultures that we've seen, ancient cultures, they did paint their sculpture. So most of the paint has been flaked off, but you can see some residue of it. Across from the entry is the most significant devotional grouping, Pintad of 5 figures. So you can see the image in front of you. The central Buddha, seated on a lion throne, is generally identified as Shakyamuni, the historical Buddha, although some scholars identify him as Maitreya, the Buddha of the future, based on his sign as he's depicted as his hand is in the mudra, a hand gesture of giving, and this hand gesture was associated with the Maitreya, and that's spelled Maitreya. He is assisted by 2 Bodhisattvas and 2 disciples, Ananda and Kasyapa. And again, Bodhisattvas are enlightened beings who have put off entering paradise in order to help others attain enlightenment. So they could achieve nirvana, but they postpone it and stay to help others attain nirvana. The Buddha's monastic robe is rendered to appear as though tucked under him. You can see that detail in the image in front of you. Ripples of folds cascade over the front of his throne. These linear and abstract motifs are typical of mature Northern Wei style, or Wei style. The flattened, elongated bodies of the Longmen Bodhisattvas, and this is the image that you see on the right, are hidden under elaborately pleated and flaring skirts. The Bodhisattvas wear drapery, scarves, jewelry, jewelry and crowns with floral designs. Their gentle, smiling faces are rectangular and elongated. So we do have some sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Oh, we do have some low relief carvings that cover the lateral walls and ceiling and floor. Um, we see finely chiseled halos that back the images. It's kind of hard to see in this picture, um, but here we see the halo of the main Buddha and how it extends up and merges with a lotus carving in the middle of the ceiling, where celestial deities appear to flutter down from the heavens with their scarves trailing. Um, so um, it's very different in contrast to the northern Wei or Wei style of the Pintad that we just looked at. The sinuous and dynamic surface decoration display Chinese style. The northern Wei craftsmen were able to marry two different aesthetics in one cave temple. Sorry, that image is so bad. Two relief carvings of imperial processions once flanked the doorway of the cave entrance. The Emperor's procession is located at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, while the Empress's procession is at the Nielsen Atkins Museum. These reliefs most likely commemorate historic events. According to records, the Empress Dowager visited the caves in 517 CE, while the emperor was present for consecration of the central Binyang in 523 CE. These reliefs are the most tangible evidence that the northern Wei craftsmen masterfully adopted the Chinese aesthetic. The style of the reliefs may be inspired by secular paintings, since the figures all appear very gracious and solemn. They are clad in Chinese court robes and look genuinely Chinese. So we can see that this aesthetic of of, um, of Chinese aesthetics has been accomplished. Um, so we're going to look at some other parts of the grottos, or these are also known as the Longmen grottos. Um, the Tang dynasty, which reigned from 618 to 907 CE, is considered the age of international Buddhism. Many Chinese, Indian, Central Asian, and East Asian monks traveled throughout Asia. The centers of Buddhism in China were invigorated by these travels, and important developments in Buddhist thought and practice originated in China at this time. So now we're going to be looking at the Finyan Temple. This imposing group of 9 monumental figures carved into the hard gray limestone of Finyan Temple at Longmen is a spectacular display of the innovative style and iconography. Sponsored by the Emperor Gaizong and his wife, the future Empress Wu, the high relief sculptures are widely spaced in a semicircle. The central um, Vairocana Buddha is more than 55 feet high, and that includes the pedestal he sits on, is flanked on either side by Bodhisattvas, a heavenly king, and a thunderbolt holder, which is known as a Vajrapani. Vairocana represents the primordial Buddha, and that is spelled Vairocana, who generates and presides over the Buddhas of the infinite universe that form Buddhist cosmology. This idea of the power of one supreme deity over the others resonates in the vast Tang Empire, which is dominated by the emperor at its summit and supported by his subordinate officials. These monumental sculptures intentionally mirrored the political situation, the dignity and imposing presence of Buddha, and the sumptuous appearance of his attendant Bodhisattvas is significant in this context. Here's a better picture of the Vairocana Buddha, and it's pronounced Bodhivastas. So those are the attendants that postpone nirvana to help others attain it. So here you do see that they're displayed. They have new, softer, and rounder modeling, and their facial expressions are a bit more serene. In contrast, these are the heavenly guardians and the Rajpini. They're a little bit more engaging and animated. Notice the realistic musculature of the heavenly guardians and the forceful poses of the Vajrapani. They're a little bit more interesting, I think, to look at. The Tang Dynasty had this aesthetic of realism, whether fleshy or wizened, dignified, or lighthearted. Um, these sort of concepts are displayed in the Kongjing Cave Temple at Longmen. Here we see accurate portrayals of individuals. This temple was created from about 690 to 704 CE under the patronage of Empress Wu. In the images of arhats, and these were worthy monks who have advanced very far in their quest of enlightenment. That is spelled Arhats, arhats. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. And we see that they line the walls. The carvers sought to create intense realism. Although they are still mortal, our hearts are capable of extraordinary deeds, both physical and spiritual. They can move at free will through space, can understand the thoughts in people's minds, and hear the voices of faraway speakers. 29 monks form a procession around the cave perimeter, linking the subject matter to the rising interest in Chan Buddhism. And this is a meditation school fostered at court by the empress herself. These portraits record the lineage of the great patriarchs who transmitted the Buddhist doctrine. So it's kind of hard to see here, but here you can see a detail. Foreign rulers of the Northern Wei, yearning for assimilation and control, made use of the Buddhist image for authority and power. Tang dynasty leaders thrived during China's golden age, asserting their sovereignty with the assistance of the Buddhist iconography. Today, you can visit the stunning limestone remains in Luoyang, New York City, and Kansas City. So there are different museums that have these different relief carvings. I'm going to stop here for now. In our next segment, we're going to continue exploring Chinese art. We're going to be looking at some landscape painting in part 3, so stay tuned.